On the date of January 17th, 1999, and during this time, the place called Lahore in Pakistan was such a terrifying place that the darkness of night was filled with silence. Every street, every corner, every area of Lahore was filled with only fear and silence. But behind this silence was hidden a demon, JAVED IQBAL, who within just 6 months was responsible for the deaths of 100 children. Normally, you have heard that those who commit murder or serial killers are given the death penalty by hanging, or they are sentenced to life imprisonment, meaning they have to stay in jail for the rest of their lives. But today we are going to talk about someone who was given such a punishment by the court in Pakistan that his body would be cut into 100 pieces, and those pieces would be dissolved in acid, and then those pieces would be placed on the road for public display so that everyone could see who that demon was who committed such a heinous act. So now let me tell you what exactly he did to receive such a terrible punishment. And behind these deaths was a horrific truth that will reveal JAVED IQBAL's blood-soaked journey begins with Fazil Razak, a 9-year-old boy from a lower middle-class family. His parents worked in a factory, and his life was already very difficult. Sometimes, to help his parents, he would go to the factory himself. He felt that his life was very miserable and horrifying. But he did not know that a day would come when he would witness the most horrifying day of his life. And that day was July 9th, 1999. On that day, Fazil left his house to go to the factory, but he never reached the factory and suddenly went missing. His parents filed a report with the police asking them to investigate. Initially, everyone thought he was just lost and would normally be found, but the boy has never been found to this day. The police did not take the case seriously at the time, assuming he might have gone to a relative's place, was roaming with a friend, or had run away. After Fazil went missing, more children began to disappear in the streets of Lahore. Rumors began circulating that someone was kidnapping children for some reason. Then another child named Ijaz Mohammed, whom his family called Kaka, went missing. This happened in October 1999, when Ijaz and his brother were standing outside their house. 2 strange boys approached them, asking if they could give a massage to their boss at home. The children thought it was a good opportunity to earn some money and went along with them, but this was the biggest mistake of their lives. As soon as Ijaz entered the house to give the massage, he started to feel that something was strange about the place. He was scared. The smell of fear was emanating from every corner of that house, but it was too late now. The child could no longer leave the house. At that moment, a decent-looking man wearing glasses appeared in front of him. Yes, this man was JAVED IQBAL, and he was giving such a creepy smile that Ijaz was still scared. After entering the house of this bespectacled man, Ijaz has never been found to this day. So where were the children disappearing? What was Iqbal doing with these children that they were disappearing one by one? This story is not just about Fazil or Ijaz, but 98 other children who also disappeared, all kidnapped by Iqbal. A total of 100 children went missing and no one knew who had kidnapped them. The question is, what did JAVED IQBAL do with so many children? In this heinous act, JAVED was not alone. He had 3 accomplices, Sajid Ahmed, Mohammed Sahar and Mohammed Nadim, who helped him in his ghastly deeds. What they did to the children was find an innocent child who was easy to abduct. They would kidnap the child and bring him to their house, where the 3 of them would make the child drink alcohol. When the child was completely intoxicated and unaware of his surroundings, and when the child could feel less pain, they would beat him until he died. After his death, they would cut his body into small pieces, dissolve the pieces in acid, and then pack them in sacks to throw into the river. All these acts they were committing were driven by their internal monstrosity. There was no monetary benefit, no financial gain. It was just their psychopathic traits that made them commit these acts, giving them a guilty pleasure. JAVED IQBAL was known to be a psychopath, but his dark and monstrous influence was so overpowering on the other 3 boys that they too started to enjoy these acts. Together, they committed these heinous crimes with 100 children. In November 1999, JAVED sent a mysterious package to the police. A package arrived at the police station with a note stating it was from JAVED. The police did not know who Javed was, but when they opened the package, they were shocked because it contained pictures of 100 children. These were the 100 children that Javed had killed. Inside the package, the police found a letter in which Javed confessed to killing these 100 children. The police couldn't believe why someone would send photos and confess to the killings. As soon as the police arrived at the address provided by Javed, 16B Ravi Road, they were stunned. For a moment it seemed as if the ground had slipped from under their feet. The police were bewildered and couldn't understand how someone could do such a thing. Inside his house they found a death chamber and a torture room. Javed had set up separate rooms in his house for these horrific acts. As the police started questioning Javed, he began behaving like a madman, as if his mind had completely shut down. As the police continued their investigation, they uncovered a horrifying story and even began to feel afraid that such a person could exist on this earth. However, amidst his act of madness, Javed managed to escape. He was pretending to be insane, but was not truly mad. The police were deceived by his act of insanity, and he fled. The police searched for Javed for a month, but found no trace of him. Then suddenly news came that a man with disheveled hair, torn clothes, and broken sandals was standing outside the Jung newspaper office in a strange, mad state. He was saying that he was JAVED IQBAL, the one who killed 100 children, the murderer of 100 children. Standing among so many journalists, JAVED IQBAL began to tell his creepy and terrifying story. He revealed every detail of his life and crimes to the journalists. He said, "Why didn't you kill 200 children? Why just 100? They were questioning him about his intentions. "I had enough money to continue this spree. If a few children out of those killed returned home, what would happen to your plan?" And then Javed started narrating his story. Javed's story was so bizarre that even the listeners were shocked. Normally in such stories, the accused is seen as troubled, impoverished, and driven to crime by circumstances. But in Javed's case, the entire scenario was different. Javed came from a very wealthy family. His father was extremely rich. He said that when his father died in 1993, he received 1,000,000 rupees from his father, which allowed him to maintain his lifestyle. Then he was asked what was the reason that he had to take this path. Javed then revealed that he was actually a pedophile. Pedophiles are those who have a greater attraction towards children, and he couldn't understand what he was feeling or what was happening to him. Due to the social taboo, he couldn't share this with anyone. When he was 17 years old, he was accused of molesting a child. He was very scared because he hadn't done anything at that time. Like every person who is falsely accused, Javed tried hard to save himself, shouting that he was not guilty and that he was being framed. But no one listened to him. He went to jail, but his mother was very worried about him. She used to visit him every day, wondering when her son would be released. While waiting for her son's release, one day his mother passed away. After his mother's death, Javed vowed that just as his mother was troubled, there would be at least 100 mothers whose children he would kill, forcing them to cry. Javed couldn't start committing crimes directly, so he first started a magazine to hide his heinous intentions. It was a business behind which he could do anything without suspicion. The name of his magazine was The Anti-Corruption Crime, and in this magazine he published interviews and praises of police officers. Javed had planned to work on making mothers sad by killing children, but he also had another interest included in this. To kill a child, he would first kidnap them, and along with that, he would sexually exploit the children, which was his other interest. He used a lot of intelligence for this and adopted different methods. For example, he first opened a gaming store in an area called Shad Bagh, where children would come to play games by paying rent. When children came to play, he would deliberately throw a 100 rupee note in front of them, and as soon as a child picked it up, he would accuse the child of theft. The child would get scared, thinking they had stolen something, and couldn't say or do anything. Using this pretext, he would take the child inside to a room he had built behind the gaming store, where he would sexually abuse the child. The child's screams wouldn't be heard outside. Javed would then use the same note again to lure other children. Gradually, parents stopped sending their children to the gaming store. When children stopped coming, Javed adopted a new tactic to attract them. He opened an aquarium, then a gym, and in the 90s he opened an air-conditioned play school. It's not that he was never caught. Once, while committing these heinous acts, he molested the child of a wealthy man in the Shadbagh area. This matter was taken seriously by influential people, and they decided he should be punished. JAVED also confessed to his crimes this time, admitted his guilt, and took an oath in front of everyone that he would never do such a thing again. JAVED even wrote on stamp paper that he would never repeat such actions, and copies of this stamp paper were distributed throughout the area so that everyone would know what JAVED had done. However, these small measures could not diminish the darkness in JAVED's mind. He sold his house in that area and bought a new one at 16B Rabi Road, Kasurpura, Lahore. According to JAVED, he used to lure or forcibly bring small children to his ghostly house, which was in a deserted area. There was a madness in his eyes. Imagine a small child crying, begging and writhing in front of him. He enjoyed all those things. When he squeezed their veins, he enjoyed it. He would kill the child, cut them into small pieces and dissolve them in acid. In fact, there was a room under his house where he had made all the arrangements to dissolve the children's bodies. If any piece remained undissolved, he would throw it into the river. JAVED's heinous laughter and the child's screams would remain confined to that room. In one of his statements, JAVED said that he could have killed 400 or 500 children, but he had promised his mother to kill only 100 children, so he killed only 100. The most horrifying thing is that when JAVED was saying all this, there was a strange gleam in his eyes. JAVED confessed all his crimes, and based on his statements, he was found guilty. This time, the court did not give a normal sentence. The court ordered exactly what he used to do to those children. They say an eye for an eye, and the court sentenced him to be cut into small pieces, dissolved in acid, and displayed as an exhibition so that people could see what kind of punishment such a monster deserved. However, before the verdict was executed, on October 8, 2001, JAVED and one of his accomplices were found dead in Kot Lakhpat jail. Their bodies were hanging from the ceiling. Their hands and feet had turned blue. It is said that they were killed in jail, first poisoned and then hanged with a bedsheet, but the jail authorities declared it a suicide. However, JAVED's name and the darkness of his crimes still roam the streets of Lahore, becoming a story of terror in people's hearts. Every time the wind blows hard at night, it feels like JAVED's spirit is still roaming those streets.